Woo woo! Welcome to Bible Theory, homie.
Taking the church to the streets, homie.
Let's look at the storyline here, because it
Yeah.
feels like there's a story going on here
Yeah.
where Jesus sends these 12 dudes, ordinary dudes, and then here comes Paul, probably like one of the smartest guys in that group. And then they go out, they disperse, right? And then they
Right.
boom, change the world, and then boom, they all get martyred, or John lives
Yeah.
to 99 years old or whatever. And then boom, there goes the apostles. And then here comes a new generation of Christians.
Right.
All right. And then the second generation and the third generation. So it's like what you said. Eventually, England got changed. Eventually, Scotland got changed. Eventually, all these places got changed. Right. So, what was the mission-minded aspect for the early church then? Was it just like we just need to go until Jesus comes back, or
Yeah.
until everybody gets baptized? Well, what was the goal? What was the mindset then?
I mean, you see it hinted at in Romans chapter 15, right? Where Paul's saying, this is my ambition to preach the gospel, to not build on someone else's foundation, but to preach the gospel, take the gospel where it hasn't gone before, to basically push the boundaries of the gospel. We see that in the lives of the apostles. There's good evidence that Thomas took the gospel all the way to India. There's the Thomas church that is still there in India, where they, it's a Catholic church today, but they view themselves as descendants of the apostles, right?
Sure,
you have
sure.
the Ethiopians, the Ethiopian unit comes back, and the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, is traces its lineage all the way there. So what happens? I mean, this is where I'm sure different historians have different opinions, but I think you do see the gospel growing and spreading, and an impulse to do that. You see the sending of missionaries to Scandinavia, to the known world that they had in the West, even to England. But then you also had it spreading in the East. We don't hear about that as much, but there was Christian tribes in Arabia at the time of Muhammad. Some of his wives were Christian. The gospel was spreading into Iran, and then from Iran, the Syriac church. There's a place in China where we visited that from 635 AD that was a Syriac Christian church in China, and you can see the evidence of that. There's during the Tang Dynasty, they had tried to take the gospel there, and for a while it seemed to kind of flourish. And I want to get into reasons why it didn't in a little bit. So there was a spreading of the gospel that clearly the early church had. I mean, you have some things I think that diluted it. I mean, I think you have the merging of church and state. At the time of Constantine, you have the Roman emperors just sprinkling water on people and calling them Christian, but not being converted, right? And so over time, even in the early church fathers, and I'm not a historian, but I'm fascinated by this stuff.
Sure.
You've got the Cappadocian fathers, like Basil,
Gregory,
and
yep.
Nazianzus.
Yep.
These guys are even talking about at that time, like the brokering of power and people paying off people to get certain church jobs. And so some of the corruption we see in the church today, they had it then too. And as the politics and Christianity got mixed, it just didn't produce good children. And so you have faithful people, you have gospel spread. I think you have pockets of faithful proclamation, but it's mixed with error. And to the time you get to the 1500s, and the popes are really corrupt. There's the rising of nation states. The printing press is changing things. So you have the kind of this soup that's just ready for something to change.
Boiling.
It's boiling. It's boiling politically. It's boiling with what's happening on the fringes of Christendom, so to speak, with the rise of the Turks and the ending of the Mongolian Empire, and the breakdown of the world that they knew, with the breakdown of the Roman Empire and the fracturing of all that. And so the time was right for something to change and happen.